Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. I am here with a good friend of mine. I've known Jeremy for years, but this is the first time I've actually ever had a chance to sit down and talk to him. And it's crazy to me because I've been talking to this guy since probably 2016 when Trump first ran. But let me introduce y'all to him real quick. We're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to tell y'all about him. And more importantly, he's going to tell y'all about himself. Jeremy Messina is running for the 113th Assembly District in New York, and that spans parts of Saratoga County, Washington County, and Warren County. Jeremy is born and raised in Washington County and currently lives on a farm in Greenwich, New York, with his wife and two daughters. I've seen pictures of his daughters and his wife, beautiful family. Jeremy is a former business owner and town planning board member, and he is a common sense conservative, and he's committed to delivering the results for the community. So, Jeremy, my first question for you is, whoops, hold on. I just broke that. Sorry about that. Wrong click. So, what is a common sense conservative? What does that mean for a dumb hick like me?
Well, you said it too. I'm a hick as well. I live up on a farm in upstate New York. So, common sense conservative to me is somebody who looks at our U.S. Constitution and applies that to the land. It's also somebody who uses a common sense approach, you know, to help things run the way that government was intended, whether that be at like a local level or a national level. You can look at it like uh, look at your town, for example. Um, some people try to get way too fancy and get all this chip money and grant money for all this stuff, for roads and all that good stuff. But really, what we could be doing is just looking at it at a much simpler level and saying, you know, how much money are we bringing into our town based off of our businesses and our tax revenue, um, and where can we spend that money? Let's get back to spending money that we have, not money that we have to keep borrowing and do increasing our taxes and so on and so forth.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I don't know how things are there in your neck of the woods, but here in Montana, it seems like every time that there's some kind of a budget crisis, there's always a budget crisis.
Always,
But there's
yes.
but no one ever actually tries to cut anything. I know that here with my family, if expenses start getting high, which they are because inflation sucks, thanks Joe Biden, um, then I can't just print money. I've got to cut costs. That the
Well,
philosophy is that how things are done there in New York where you are, or not so much?
New York is just constantly burning through money. I mean, look at our migration problem. I don't know if you're facing the same thing in Montana as we are.
Yeah, we
We
are.
have a lot of we have a lot of people coming through the Canadian border, which I'm sure the same thing is happening to you. Um, so, for example, in New York City, we have a lot of hotels, and the government has taken over some of those hotels, at least not in the sense of like they've come in and strong arm the hotel owners. They're saying we're going to give you tax money to house these migrants. It's totally wrong. One hotel in New York City, it's called Hotel Row. You can look it up. Every single night, they max out the stay at the hotel for these migrants, and it costs taxpayers near $700,000 every single night, and we've been paying that for
Gotcha.
I don't even know how long now. So again, it's spending money that we don't have. New York is one of the largest debtor states with nearly $500 billion in debt, and we just passed a budget that's more than double Florida's state budget, and now for the first time, New York has less residents than New York by 3 million, and we have more than
Gotcha.
double the budget.
So that's, I mean, that's impressive. No, I haven't seen the stories about it, and I mean, since New York is housing all these migrants that are here illegally, I guess that means that y'all have solved the homelessness problem there with homeless veterans and homeless Americans. Like that problem is all solved, and so now you can take care of the illegals, or what?
Right. Sad to say, no. The amount of money we spend on migrants is so large in comparison to what we spend on our veterans and our homeless. Our veterans receive maybe it's $20 million a year. Just housing migrants in that one hotel costs more money than that. So it's really sad to see what our state is doing. We have probably, actually, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we have the worst governor in the entire United States. Kathy Hochul has been an absolute disaster. And when we were wishing for Cuomo to go away, we got somebody worse than Cuomo, and I know that's
Gotcha.
hard to imagine. I mean, you probably
Yep.
remember him during COVID up there on the
Oh
stage
yeah.
looking like the big mafia boss. Uh, but yeah, Kathy Hochul is so much worse. I mean, they're trying to implement like congestion pricing in New York City. They want to charge you just for driving on the road when we're already the highest tax state in the country.
Gotcha. So y'all's tax rate's higher than California even?
We're back and forth, and it depends on how you look at it. If you look at it like per
Gotcha.
capita, or we're number one and number two, no matter how you look at it. But I can tell you right now, we're the number one least friendly business state in the entire country, and we're also the state losing the most residents by far. It's not even close.
Gotcha. There's one thing I know. I mean, you can tell by my accent, I'm not from Montana. My family is down in Florida, and so there's the number of New Yorkers going there is insane. And here in
Yeah,
Montana, we have the
yeah.
problem with the Californians. In Florida, it's the New Yorkers, and both sides like stop because you're bringing your crap with you. Um, so
Well,
what?
I do want to make a bit of an argument to that point. I do know a lot of New Yorkers. Some of them are leaving that are Democrats, probably for, even though they won't admit it, for greener pastures. But I do
Sure,
know that a lot of upstate Republicans are very, very conservative. I would say more conservative than people in Texas, and people don't realize that. Um, Upstate New York is very red, and when those people are leaving our state, it really hurts us because, for example, the
sure,
last governor election, Lee Zeldin ran and lost by like 300,000 votes. 2 years prior to that, we lost almost a million people in New York, and most of them were registered Republicans. So you could imagine,
gotcha.
like, we could have won the governor's race and been done with Kathy Hochul if people just stayed and wanted to fight. And that's why I continue to stay and try to fight in this state.
Gotcha. No, and that's a good point. And I appreciate that because I mean, here, the stigma that we have here in Montana is don't Californicate my Montana. And
That's
in
right.
Florida, it's very similar. But what my question is, Jeremy, is what can you do if you go to Albany and if you're elected to the legislature? What can the state legislature do specifically to try and push back against this crazy agenda that, frankly, is killing business in your state?
Yeah, I mean, to your point about going to Albany, it's very tough in New York because we are in a super minority as Republicans. So what we're trying to do in my seat and one other seat is flip the super majority, which would at least allow us to bring bills to the floor. Hopefully, that would be a start because right now, if you want to do anything in New York, you have to have a Democrat sponsor it. There's just no way around it. Sponsor a
Gotcha.
bill. So it's really unfortunate. It's really sad the way our state is, and a lot of the Democrats in our state are trying to play like, "Oh, we're bipartisan. We're bipartisan." Let me tell you something about the Democrats in our state, and this is how messed up they are. They have some serious issues, power issues, mental issues, and I'm not afraid to say that because I have
Yeah.
something that I can back up with that statement. Um, we have a problem in New York with Airbnbs and sex offenders. So one of
Okay.
my friends brought forward a bill in Albany that said if you are a sex offender, you have to report to somebody that you're staying in an Airbnb or a short-term rental. The bill came up to the floor, and every single Democrat shot it down, and no one was even willing to sponsor that bill. Now, that just seems like common sense to me.
Sure.
If you're a sex offender, you should have to report. We've had some issues in across the country where sex offenders are staying at Airbnbs, and there's a young family next door. And things do have happened, and that's why this bill has come forward. So we have a problem in New York where the Democrats are like, we don't care how logical anything is, you will not get a say.
I mean, why is that? I mean, there used to be this thing called blue dog Democrats. They
Yes.
were just working class people that actually that just came up, the working class folks like what you and me are, and just wanted to just make their society, make their home better. And it seems like making the place safe for your kids is something everyone should want to do.
Well,
I mean, what was the rationale behind it?
there was no rationale behind it. It just didn't even make it to the floor, and it quietly got swept under the rug because that's how things happen here in our state.
Gotcha.
Anything that makes the Democrats look bad, the Times Union isn't going to report on it, or the Post Star, or whatever. I don't know what newspapers you guys have out there, but nobody's going to report on them. We also just passed a bill. The Democrats just passed a bill in our state funding the newspapers. And that is just so not a common sense approach like what we talked about. They're using
Sure.
tax dollars to literally fund newspapers. Who do you think the newspapers are going to write good things about?
People are paying them, of course.
Exactly. We're having a problem with one of the person that I'm running against. They don't want to put our stuff in the paper. They refuse to put in our article in the paper condemning the violence, against President Trump, who was shot at. And my opponent still hasn't even made a statement on that to this day. But she's the first one to be out at any like Pride event, any thing, taking photos and making statements about all that stuff. But a former
Sure.
president gets shot at, and she doesn't say anything. The newspapers won't call her out for it. If I didn't say something, or a Republican in power didn't say something, they would be hammering them. You better believe that.
Sure. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, uh, here where I am, it's a small town, probably similar to where it is, what is it, where you are.
Yeah.
A lot of little ranches and stuff around here, and it's just people who are just trying just to make a living. Are the churches in your area, are they energized? Do they have any kind of a support for people who are actually going out and pushing against the perversion, or standing up to speak for the right of unborn children not to be murdered in the womb?
Unfortunately, no. My wife's aunt is a pastor of our church, an Episcopalian church in our town, and a deacon. Her uncle's a deacon, and it's really unfortunate. We don't have a lot of support. We don't have a lot of energy in our area for churches. New York is a very progressive state, or so they like to call themselves. I think they're regressive, but they're,
I agree.
it's sad. There's not a lot. My wife's aunt is building the church up more and more every single week in our town, which is great. It's great to see that enthusiasm, but I don't think most areas are, and a lot of them are pandering to a lot of these new woke issues that are coming out and trying to make things very generic at church, which is okay. If you want to go to a generic church, that's fine. But some of these churches are really, really letting go. I mean, it's to the point where they're putting, the pride flag outside their church, and right up with if they do have an American flag or whatever, they're putting it right up next to it and just totally pandering.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So that makes things tough because at least out here in the West and the South, you still have, tough decide to call them Bible thumpers, but Bible thumpers actually believe in a higher power, and they know the difference between a man and a woman. They stand for something.
Oh,
So it sounds,
that
so it's,
I'm glad you brought that up. There's another thing right now in New York where the person that I'm running against voted for gender affirming care for children. So that's a big issue right now, and kind of getting swept under the rug. A lot of people don't even realize, when I talk to them, I have to bring up the bill and show them, like, hey, look, this is what you're voting for.
sure.
And some people a lot of people that I've talked to, they're like, wow, I've voted for her in the past. I'm not going to do that now. I'm happy you showed me that, and I'm just, it's really frustrating that so many people don't know what's going on around them, and that's been a problem forever.
Sure. Well, one thing I will tell you right now, I don't have a huge reach, but I will do everything I can to support you. If you'll send me those articles, I will plaster them all over the internet. And the people
Good,
who
good.
follow me, I will make sure that they know, and maybe we can start getting some traction. Speaking of traction, y'all, this is Jeremy Messina. Just again, for those of you who are just tuning in, he is running for state legislature in New York. If y'all please do me a favor, down in the show notes down below, I have a link to his website. It is Messina for New York, the number 4 New York, NY.com. Go visit this man, go to his website. And if you have some money to throw his way, do so, because he is literally fighting pretty much by himself up there in New York. The churches, it sounds like they're AWOL. They're not engaged in the fight at all. The establishment media there, they're not even platforming this man. They won't even condemn someone taking a shot at President Trump. So if you want to have grassroots change, you're looking at right there on the screen with Jeremy Messina. The guy's the real deal. I mean it. And if you send me those articles, brother, I will send them. I'll make that witch famous.
Good. Yeah. We need to. This state is very frustrating. But what I can tell you is, and I probably shouldn't say it. I'm going to say it because I highly doubt that my opponent will watch this.
Go ahead and say it.
we don't talk. We try not to talk about the strategy of our campaign too much. But I will tell you that we are going to weak Democrat doors, and by weak I mean people who don't vote in every election. We're going to the weak Republican doors. Again, not that they're weak Republicans, but they don't vote in every election, and
Sure.
independent doors. And I can tell you right now, we've hit about 350, 400 doors, and nobody else is out door knocking yet. I'm the only one out there
Good.
for this election cycle. 400 doors already, and I haven't had a single person, tell me that they're not voting for me, slam the door in my face. It's way different than previous elections that I've been involved in with my parties. It's been very energizing and really, really good mentally. It's kind of like I
Sure.
was really expecting being a Trump supporter and conservative in New York, having that door slammed in my face by now. But no, everyone's really upset with the way things are going in New York, especially upstate New Yorkers.
What are they more upset about? Or do people tend to be more upset over the taxes, the cost of living, or are they upset about how the state government in New York has no problem castrating kids? Is all the above? I mean, what
It's all
is
the
the pressure
above.
point?
It's all the above, and it's the cost of living in New York, yeah, is a major topic. And also that depends on what age group of people I'm talking to, right? If I go out to
Sure.
people that are 20, something years old, they're very worried about being able to buy a home. We've put forward a plan to actually help young home buyers in New York. And, there's a lot of things that go into that, so I'm not going to bore people with all the details. But
Sure.
basically, the basic idea of that is you have a job that you work 40 hours a week.
Yep.
There should be some sort of program or something set up where you're not paying 20% interest or whatever the deal is. 1 to 2% interest, because we have a massive problem in our state, which I don't think you have here in your state. You might, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a massive problem with these developers coming in and buying up land and making
Yep.
affordable housing. And people don't want that in their communities. And no single Democrat can tell me, at least, what affordable housing actually means.
Yep.
So when it comes in, it ends up just making everything more expensive. You push out the single family homes, and people don't care about their apartment like they're going to care about their own single family home. So we have a real
Sure.
problem with that in New York, and we're trying to combat that.
No, we have got here it's very similar. And it seems like this is a plan that they have just to try and kill rural America, because what's happening is that these developers are coming in, they're buying up land, it pushes up property prices. Then the native Montanans, people who've been here all their lives, they're getting pushed out because they literally cannot afford the taxes on the home. This is not a wealthy state; it's an agricultural state, and so it's bad. The gentrification here is it's real. It sounds like that they're in New York. They're doing the same thing to you. Uh,
They are, yeah, they are. And back to your point about what people are frustrated about, that's the big one with young people. Some people here are working 2 to 3 pretty good jobs and they can't afford to get by. So,
sure.
older people, it's definitely the taxes. And again, back to that common sense approach. I remember when Donald Trump was president and he implemented, you make one new law, you get rid of 2 old ones.
Sure.
Because we have too many regulation and just too much bogging us down. We can't get anything done here. And we have all these 3-letter agencies just absorbing all our tax dollars.
Do you see a way for your campaign to be able to work with libertarians or the people who are just disenfranchised, the forgotten voters? Is there any kind of an outreach to people like that, or even I guess the old school hippie Democrats, if there still even exist there in New York where you are?
Yes, I absolutely agree. We have flipped some Democrat votes, believe me, and I'm talking about people who I know that I would have never in a million years guessed that or thought that they would ever vote for me or somebody like me. So
Sure.
we are working with those groups, and independents we're doing really well with. Again, libertarians in our state are I don't want to say a weird group in like the sense that they're weird, socially. I'm saying that they're weird in the sense that we just don't really have a lot. We do have people that have the don't tread on me flags and stuff like that, but we don't really have like a group of libertarians.
Gotcha. Here in Montana, they're actually one of the biggest blocks is libertarians, and whenever I talk to them in the past, it's just really more people who are just. Hey, I've got to be completely honest with you. I mean, you've sparred about this in the past. I'm not a Republican. I'm independent. And it's because the Republican Party left me. I did not leave it. And so there's this big segment of the population that's probably in that same boat is that both parties are going to screw me. Both parties have been screwing me for decades. Pox in both your houses, burn it all down. Is that an apathy, or is that just a resignation that it's never going to get better, or do you think it's something else?
Well, I think it depends too on your looking at it on national versus local or state
I'm talking
level.
about local.
Yeah, local. We have done a very good job at really trying to open up to independents. I would say. I think things have changed recently. Republicans have changed a little bit in the past year or two. I know some of our talks go back way farther than that. So um, it's hard to say. I do understand why people are frustrated with both parties. I totally get it. I consider myself an independent first. I have that on some of my material online on some of my cards that I hand out to people because I think it's important for people to know, that you think for yourself, and not a lot of. I don't think many politicians can say that except for maybe Donald Trump and MTG. Other than that, I don't think a lot of people think for themselves.
No, they don't. I mean, one of the most frustrating things I deal with talking to people is, do you actually ever read or study the topic? And the answer that I get more often than not, I look at the headline. The headline's not going to inform you. And so that's the whole reason I started doing this. I mean, hell, if you look right here on my green screen, I mean, it's freaking wild. I started off as a gaming channel. I have two kids though, and the country's going to hell in a handbasket. And I mean, you talked about this before. I mean, as soon as you start pushing back, they start immediately calling you a Putin bot. That's the name. A Russian bot. They're just asking you, hey, how much is Putin paying you? I'm still waiting on my check, by the way. Hasn't come in yet. Or a racist. It doesn't matter if I'm married to a black woman or not. It's insane. And the big thing that I run into, and the thing that's most disgusting for me, I expect that crap from the left. They don't have an argument. All they have is slurs and attacks. The thing that's pissing me off, especially in your situation, is the complete surrender of the churches. I don't know how you correct that.
Well, it begins with honestly in your community. I believe it. It starts with first fixing that we have a single family home problem that I was talking about earlier. We need single family homes. People who have single family homes are usually younger people with families, and family is important to people. I really do feel like this apartment living that people are being forced into, especially in my state, is sad and depressing to people. And it's a weird lifestyle the way things are playing out here. And I think that if we can fix some of those problems, it will help, it'll help people have families, be excited to have families, be proud of their community. And that's such a more positive, message for your community. And I think people will start going to church then more. If you have a family, if you have a community to be proud of, if you're not stressing, constantly about like, oh my God, all these taxes, all this money that I'm paying for. A lot of people just can't afford to mentally be okay to go to church on a Sunday because they're so stressed about life.
Okay. No, I can see that. And I mean, if you don't own nothing, you have no stake in the system, right? So
that's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a big part of it. So what is your vision? Like, so if you get elected, and I hope that you do, what is it that you want to do? Like, if you actually had a majority, if you're actually able to bring things to the floor in Albany and not just get blown up by the Democrats, what do you, Jeremy Messina, what do you want to do? Like,
so you want to?
I give you 6 months.
If I had the majority in the assembly, you want to hear what I would do?
I do.
First and foremost, one, just for fun, maybe slap down a border bill, for the northern border, because we have a serious problem with that. And it's really not, the Democrats can't just say, oh, that's just Republican talking points. They're racist, they're this, they're that. We have a real problem. They are coming in through the border, and northern New York is very much like probably like Montana. And in the winter, it's very, very cold.
Yep.
We have people getting lost up there, dying. I mean, bodies were thawing out this spring,
Yeah, same here.
that we have to go take care of. And then on top of that, they are bringing children with them that aren't even their children, because we have in my area, we have people that own camps up north, and they don't know what to do with these people. They're coming in on their property, with these kids that aren't even theirs. And what are you going to do? You can't like shoot somebody that's on your property with a kid. I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to do that.
No.
So, what are you going to do? And they're breaking into houses when they get turned around and lost. They're filling up the hotels, because when they come here, they have nowhere to stay. And on top of that, then when they get sick or something happens to them, they're filling up our hospitals. And the problem with that is we are starting to use resources from outside of all of that area, all the way down to Albany. We have to send resources up to northern part of New York, just because, that we're having problems there. The hospitals are full. Now, next thing you know, they're busing them down into Saratoga, Albany, because there's nowhere else for them to go. So it's not just a problem for the northern part of New York. This is becoming a problem for the entire state. And these aren't even the ones coming from Mexico. These are the ones just coming from the Canadian border.
You're getting it both ways then.
It's bad. It's really bad. And we just had a big 2 prison closure in our state, and it's really sad. In my county, one of the prisons accounts for about 800 jobs,
Okay.
and the governor just decided we're going to close the prison. One of my friends, actually, a lot of my friends work at that prison as correctional officers. Their families live there because of that, and they're shutting down the prison. And I guarantee you, we know what is coming next. Do you want to answer it for me, or should I answer it?
Oh, go on ahead.
The next thing that we're going to start hearing from our governor and our Democrat Assembly and Senate is, well, we have this migrant problem, and now we have this massive prison just empty. Why would we not house them there? And they can't say that that's not going to happen, because it's already happened in Massachusetts. They shut down 3 prisons, and now they're housing migrants there. And the governor has
Really?
the nerve to go on TV. Yeah, yep, you can look it up. The governor there has the nerve to go on TV and ask people to open their hearts and let these migrants stay in their houses as well. And a couple people have taken the governor up on that offer. And I don't know how it's ended up for them. I'm going to have to do some research, but I couldn't imagine bringing in, anybody into my home that I don't know or trust around, my 2 daughters and my wife.
No, there's no way. No, there's no way.
Nope.
I will let you stay in my house, no problem. But I mean,
Yeah.
some schmuck who, your first act is, you're going to come into my country, break the laws, and then my government is going to treat you better than it treats the native-born Americans, and then you're going to start quartering them in my home. Screw that. No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So everything that I'm trying to do, that would be probably the number one thing that I would do if I had the majority. The other thing is, we have to slash this budget that we have here that is just such a waste of money. I can't believe that Florida, a state with hurricanes, we're spending more than double Florida. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How are we spending more than double Florida state budget? And I just heard recently that Ron DeSantis actually has Florida out of debt, and I think it's like one of the only states in the country that is fully out of debt.
Yep, Montana and Florida, those are the 2.
Okay, so 2 of them. Wow, that's
Yep.
good for Montana. Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive with half of the budget of New York that they can be out of debt. So there's obviously a lot of illegal activity going on in New York. That's my assumption is, how can we just have money that just keeps disappearing, constantly? And our roads aren't getting better. Our schools aren't getting better. It's sad. I don't know where all this money's going to, but if I was in the assembly and I had the majority, I would definitely find out and get to the bottom of, whose family and friends are profiting from all this. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you a really good one that you in Montana, you're going to laugh so hard at this. There's a bill that currently passed New York State Senate that is going to force all government buildings to have bird-friendly glass. Okay, think about that for a second. Bird-friendly glass. I'm not joking. Some whack job in the Senate put this bill forward that they're going to have to change out government buildings and new government buildings going forward. That they have to have bird-friendly glass to save the birds. Again, mind you, these are people who are totally pro-abortion up until the very end, and they want to save the birds. Though it totally makes no sense at all. And my point to this bill is, whose friend is a glass or window maker in New York that's going to benefit from this? Because that's the only logical explanation that I can think of for somebody implementing bird-friendly glass. It's like if you had a glass company and I was like, hey, I know you and I like you. Let's just call it bird-friendly, and you can sell it. And you're going to be the only one that can do it because you have the technology to do it, even though it's probably just glass.
I mean, yeah, you're right. You got me over here laughing. That was, I did not see that coming. I don't know why we're expecting it was not bird friendly glass. So I've got to say, you got me there.
Yes, I couldn't believe it.
I mean, so what is the biggest part of New York's budget? I mean, is it Medicaid? I mean, what is y'all's biggest expenditure?
Yeah, that's one of it. Infrastructure is massive. Salaries are huge. So we talk about, I'm gonna tell you something that'll make you guys a little bit sick. We have 150 assembly members. Couple of years ago, the assembly pay in New York was still a good paycheck. It was $82,500. Still pretty good. Full benefits, retirement, all that good stuff that comes with a part-time. It's a part-time job that they're now calling a full-time job.
Of course.
And now they're getting paid $143,000 a year. It is the highest paid legislature in the country. So, it's frustrating to look at. You see these people who don't do anything. All they do, like my opponent, is show up at like ice cream events. She's doing some like library tour with kids because they have this like super infatuation with kids, as we've seen the past couple of years. Like reading to like 5, 6, 7-year-olds. That's what they're paying her to do. They're not paying her to fix problems because under my opponent, we've only lost jobs in New York and businesses. We've lost thousands and thousands. I think it's over 4,000 farms now that we've lost in New York since she's taken office. We've lost the most amount of residents. Our taxes have only gone up. So what are they doing with this majority that they have that nobody's stopping them? Things are only getting worse. So the funny part about all this is they have nobody else to blame except themselves.
Sure.
But they do get to vote and make themselves the highest paid legislature in the country. And that's what you can do when you have a majority like that.
It sounds like a mafia state. I mean, honestly,
it is totally a mafia state. And I'll tell you, they will run you out of business. If you're a business owner and you go against them, they will make you feel bullied and intimidated. And not just them, their own voters go out and do it for them. As you've seen how some of these Democrats act to certain businesses,
Yeah.
And that's a problem because our side, even if you're not a Republican now, most people probably will agree and acknowledge Republicans don't do that.
No.
If I see somebody out at a diner somewhere that I don't like, I'm just not going to engage with them. But they will protest you. I mean, in this state, they will circle around you and protest you, and go live on Facebook or whatever, just to intimidate you, to make you feel like, you're a totally awful person for being a Republican.
I mean, how dare you not want to castrate kids? I mean,
yeah.
What's wrong with you? Are you sick? I mean, that should be what everyone wants to do. Why would you want to have grandkids? That makes no sense to me.
I know. And so, for example, we were at our Saratoga County Fair the other day, and we had our Republican booth set up, which, by the way, the Democrats don't do. I don't think fair crowds are their kind of people. At fairs, it's mostly, people with Trump hats. And
Sure.
It's funny how they like to be the ones to bully and gang up in numbers. But when there's other, numbers, they don't want to do that. So this lady walked in, and I'm standing at the booth, and we have all our signs up, and there's Trump signs and my assembly sign and the other people running. And I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, hey, I'm on the other side. Sorry." And I was like, "That's okay. We can still talk." And she kept walking, and she's like, "No, your guy Trump is a Nazi sympathizer, and he's friends with Putin." And I was just like, and I said to her, I was like, "Can you explain to me, why you think that way?" And she keeps walking as she's saying this stuff and just keeps repeating he's a Nazi sympathizer. And it's just disrespectful. If you want to engage and have a conversation with me, I'm all for that. And most Republicans are. Most Republicans, a lot of independents are, but Democrats are not. And we've seen it time and time again. They say this awful stuff as they're walking away because
Right.
they don't have anything intelligent to say after their idiotic statement of, oh, he's a Nazi.
Well, they don't have an argument. I mean,
No.
that's what I went through. I mean, I mean, this interview is about you. It's not about me, but I understand kind of what it is that you're going through. I'm a white dude from the South, have a Southern accent. So automatically I'm a member of the Klan. I mean, that's just what it is. And then people figure out, oh, you're married to a black woman. Oh, then she's an Oreo. That's what they call her.
Oh God.
They called my wife an Oreo. So what the hell does that mean? Oh, she's black on the outside, white on the inside. And they say the most racist crap, but yet they're the party of tolerance, and they're supposed to be
Yes.
progressive and be able to articulate an argument, and they can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Trump the other day land in Chicago, and whatever conference that was of black leaders. And did you get to watch that by chance?
I didn't. No, I want to, but I
I,
haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
you should watch it, and then you can text me and let you know what you think about it. But
Okay.
right off the bat, the one lady was so rude and disrespectful to Trump, trying to corner him into he's a racist. But everybody in the crowd was cheering for him, and even the other black panelists, women on the stage, were just loving having Trump there. But he stood his ground, and I thought it was a really good interview.
Gotcha. I'll have to watch it. What is your opinion of J.D. Vance? I have to ask you. I mean, you're running as a Republican. Me personally, I like Vivek. He's the guy who I wanted to go in, and I'm kind of on the
Well,
fence about Vance. Just want to kind of get your opinion on him.
I'm so happy you asked me about this because I do talk to a lot of people about this stuff, but nobody in the Republican Party or higher ups obviously are asking me for my opinion because it doesn't matter. Uh,
Mine doesn't either. That's why I'm here on Rumble.
yeah, I I I think he's a good talker. I think he's an intelligent guy. I'm proud that he fought for our country. Um, I don't necessarily like the idea of having somebody who talked very badly about you being your vice president.
Sure.
I don't think that I would be comfortable with that. And if you're supposed to be the next man up, if somebody, God forbid, tries to, go after Trump again, um, I don't know how comfortable I would be with him being my running mate. But I, I think he's an intelligent guy. That there's something about him that I just don't necessarily trust 100% right now. And I had a couple picks before JD Vance, and here's why. JD Vance is running in a state that is more red than Florida. So strategically, that doesn't really make sense to me. Um, it's not going to deliver any more to Ohio for Donald Trump.
Right.
Now, could it influence some of those other states up there like Michigan and Pennsylvania? Maybe. I don't know how much weight the vice president actually carries there.
Usually none. The vice president's almost always a drag.
Yeah, I mean, Biden got elected with Kamala, the most unliked candidate ever. She had to drop out because she was polling at like 1% when she ran for president. So
Hey, but now though, if you listen to CNN, she's winning. So I
yeah,
mean, there's got to be something
yeah,
there, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, she's definitely winning. We don't need to believe the polls. We know what the polls
No.
are. We
Yeah,
saw
crap.
happen in 2016. So hold on, let me decline this quick. I really wanted. There's a couple people I wanted first, and it might be kind of selfish of me because they're in my state. I really, really like Lee Zeldin. Phenomenal guy. Still fighting for our country in the military. He's very smart. He is a phenomenal speaker. He does not get enough credit for he can go into a room and just fire up a crowd. And he's been touring around a lot with Trump, so he's obviously a trusted friend of Donald Trump's. I would have chosen him because I think New York, at the time when he made the pick, New York was becoming in play. I mean, we were talking Trump was polling near 5 against Biden, where last election Trump lost New York by 23 points. You're talking a major swing down to 5, making New York in play. The other candidate I would have picked was Elise Stefanik. And Elise is so intelligent, so articulate, so smart, and can fundraise. I mean, she is known for fundraising, and she helps so many people. She helps so many candidates that she doesn't have to help, but her PAC raises money for candidates, not just herself, which is amazing. That's truly something that you don't see in a lot of politicians, and I can't express how thankful I am to have somebody in our party that's like that, and can deliver. And again, she would have helped Donald Trump in New York. And there is something to be said about the whole, like, well, if you run a woman, you might gain a point or two, type of thing. Not that I play identity politics. I don't like that. I think you need to run on your own merit. But at least Stefanik has that.
Sure. I mean, it makes sense. Do you think that her being a darling of AIPAC is part of the reason why Trump did not pick her? Because if he says he's trying to drain the swamp, getting in bed with a swamp creature, like what happened the first time, probably isn't the best way to do that. Do you think that might be what played into that reasoning?
It absolutely could have, except for the fact that I know Elise Stefanik, and she's not a swamp creature. She is a MAGA Republican in the state that, I had laid out to you before how New York works. So a lot of times when you're looking at it from the outside, she may look like a swamp creature, but I can tell you she's just a down-to-earth, awesome person.
Gotcha. So that's good to know, because I am looking at it from the outside. So, I mean, what I have to look at, kind of here in Montana, we have our population's right around 1 million people, and in the entire state's huge. It's insane. And we have 2 congressmen. One of them is Ryan Zinke, who's like the rhino of the rhino of the rhino. The dude doesn't even live in Montana. He lives in California most of the time. And so, but we're stuck with him because you got the boomer Republicans who just don't go with Zinke because he was a Navy SEAL. It doesn't matter. He's screwing you over every chance he gets. I mean, he votes every single time against what the people of Montana said they want, but they keep reelecting him. And so, me personally, I'm kind of jaded. I'm kind of used to just having someone blow in my ear once every 2 or 4 years, whatever it is, and then just not even take me for lunch, before the obligatory romance. Yeah. But and so I go through and I look at all the people who are just taking all the money, and as you and me know, well, as you know for sure, I'm after Trump a lot. I was Trump's biggest supporter in 2016. And the dude completely lost me because he failed to execute on everything that he ran on. And so I'm hoping that this time, especially since they tried to take his head off, if he does get in, that he will actually do what he promised to do the first time, which is to blow up DC.
Yeah. So again, it's so hard to talk about some of these things because there's a million things that happen throughout a president's day. And man, I do agree with you. I don't think Trump aligned himself with the right cabinet when he was in. I do agree with you there. You and I have talked about this before. Yep. I think Trump does best when Trump listens to himself. I know that sounds crazy, but man, when he was running in 2015, it was just him and his core group of people. That was him at his best. And
I agree.
When you get into office, you have all these people, all these groups just chirping in your ear and telling you what you should be doing. I get it's frustrating, but this time around, he's just got to get those forces outside of his head. Don't let them come in all of a sudden now that you won the presidency and act like they're your friend, because they're not.
No.
And everybody was, so against him, and they still are. You still have the mainstream media against him. You have Google. I mean, Google's literally just censoring him every time you type in Harris or Trump. It pulls up stuff about Harris. He has to remember that. And the thing that we have to remember as voters and us, small time people, is if we want Trump to deliver on his promises, we also need to get the people in around him that will support him. In all these elected positions coming up. So that's major. People can't sit back and just expect one guy to do it all. And as great as Donald Trump is, he cannot do it all. And I've even learned that just like running in my local area. I mean,
That's
they think candidates can just do it all, and they can't.
can't.
You know, you need help.
No, I completely agree. And I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on is, in my personal opinion, I think that local elections matter so much more than national elections do. Who you elect to your school board matters. Your county sheriff matters more than who the president is. I mean, the president's the supreme law authority in the county. He can do whatever he wants. And most people are just, they don't understand that. And I know that you have to go soon, that you've been, and I want to thank you for giving me all the time that you have. Just what can we do to help you win? First, who are you running against? What's this woman's name? And then how can we help you kick her butt?
So I'm running against a woman named Carrie Warner. And what I need is the support online for people to realize that, yes, I may not be in your district. I may not be in your state. I may not be able to help you right now. But what we need to do is start building a core group of people who want to help, you know, candidates like me, you know, people like you do what we're trying to do to help. You know, if you don't want to get out there and put up yard signs or go door to door for a candidate, there are things you can do to help. And that's sharing things online, sharing it to your friends, because you may not know that your friend has family in my district in New York. You know, you just don't know. So sharing it is important. Donating is important. And I am the worst person at asking money for myself. Ask my campaign team. They are on me every single day. Hey, you got to make fundraising calls. We got to do this. We got to, you know, you got to basically beg this person for money. I am terrible at it. And I understand that times are tough. So you don't want to do door sign, or you don't want to do door knocking. You don't want to go put up signs. That's fine. Maybe you could donate. Maybe you could refer somebody to donate. Again, I totally understand if you don't have the money right now with the way things are. Makes sense. I would never ask anybody to put themselves in a position, you know, to make their life harder. But we do have to do what we have to do. And if you want to help, that's a great way to do it, especially if you're far away.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for those of y'all who are watching, I've got Jeremy's, I've got the link to his webpage pinned. I've got the link to his fundraising site pinned. All of his information is here on the show notes. Y'all help this man. Because if you truly want to, I mean, I'm in this because I have two kids. Jeremy's in it for the same reason. He has two little daughters. I have a son and a daughter, and the world they're going to be inheriting sucks. I'm doing this for them. And if you have kids or grandkids, and if you want them to have a chance at a better life, that's not some kind of a dystopian rainbow flag wrapped pervert party like at the Olympics every week, then you need to start putting your time and your money where the people are who need your support. That's just a fact of life.
So I do want to go back to something really quick, and thank you for all that. I really appreciate your words there, and I agree with you 100%. You asked me what I would do if I had the majority in New York. Well, I want to tell you what I'm going to do when I win and I don't have the majority. My goal in my first term is to fix a lot of the party issues that our own party has in New York. So what I mean by that is we've got plans in place to start removing people from our current committees that are kind of like, you know, rhinos or traitors to the party that vote Democrat. We're working on that. And we're also going to start removing those politicians like the guy that you brought up earlier, who no longer support Ryan Zinke, who no longer support the Republican platform or working as a team with us. We have people out, Republicans, taking pictures with my opponent and tagging them on Facebook and paying for ads. Like, you can't do that as a Republican. You cannot sit there as an elected official and tell somebody one thing and then, like your guy, completely lie and do the opposite. We can no longer support that as a party. And that is my first mission as an assemblyman, believe it or not, besides cutting the taxes in our state, because that needs to be done, is also in my spare time figuring out how do we fix the mess that's become of our party.
Yeah, because it sucks. And Jeremy, I've told you this before. I did not leave the Republican Party. It left me.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. And how do you feel about the changes in the party now, the platform? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's more Trump doing just watering crap down. But I'm looking at it different though, right? I'm a fundamentalist Christian, and so for me, uh, the right to life is the most basic right that there is. Just because a baby is inconvenient does not give you the right to kill it. And Trump watering that down, to me, is another slap in the face. I understand.
Strange, isn't it?
I understand. Well, it's because they're running scared, and they're afraid of losing the women vote. I think what Trump should do, and what the RNC should do, is grow a pair of balls and say, first of all, the Republican Party cannot ban abortion. The votes simply are not there. Even if they wanted to, they can't. They couldn't ban abortion. It's not there. You need a supermajority. It would never happen. It's not going to happen. So just come up, be honest, and just say it's best served. America is at least on paper, a federal system, a federal republic. Let the states deal with it. Just be honest. Just put it down there. Say, if you live in Montana and you want to kill your baby, you're going to have to go to Colorado. That's the price you got to pay. Sorry.
Yeah. I agree with making it a state issue because, like you said, local elections matter.
Yeah, they do.
And I think that also gives you the freedom to choose where you want to live in our country. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm like you though. I am pro-life, but I don't think. Listen, people are going to do it one way or another, and that's sad. So we might as well take what we can and get a win. And that's what confuses me about Trump. Removing it from the platform doesn't make sense because I do truly believe, a lot of people might not agree with me on this, but I do truly believe that Trump is pro-life. But I think he took the win where he could. And Trump hasn't lived a perfect life. And, he's probably done stuff that you and I wouldn't agree with. But I think at this point in his life, I think he's pro-life. And he's done a lot for the pro-life movement.
He's a New York billionaire. What do you expect?
Yeah.
He's the dude's a tomcat. He'll be the first one to tell you.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? But hi, Diggs. I see you there in the chat. I get it, and I don't see where compromising on your message helps. You win by having. Elections matter, and what you get to do is that you just go in and just talk to the American people. Say, okay, here, I'm gonna put all the cards down. You pick. You, the American voter, you decide. Do you want a government that will let a kid get chemically castrated without the consent of its parent? Do you want open borders? Would you rather have? Do you want to have 200,000 American troops in Europe defending Europe whenever these little pissant countries don't want to defend themselves? While our own borders are wide open, we're $35 trillion in debt. If that's what you want, vote for Kamala. If you want to close the border and actually fix crap, vote for me.
Yeah.
There it is, right there. That's the message.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
and I don't understand.
I don't either. And I'm in agreement with you. You and I fundamentally are in agreement on a lot of things. But I do have to get running here.
Sure.
My team just showed up, and we are going to go hit the doors again all night. So,
all right, brother. I wish you the best of luck. And for those of you who are still watching, Jeremy, I also appreciate the extra time that you gave me. Y'all, again, this is Jeremy Messina. He is running in the bluest of blue states. He's running in New York. I have had the privilege of knowing him for a long time. I consider him a friend. Messina, the number 4ny.com. Please go and support this man. Go donate him. Go donate for him. We get the government we deserve. If you don't want to go out and fight for your freedom, then you don't deserve your freedom to begin with. Jeremy, I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much. You have a good day.
You too, my friend. Bye-bye.